There are people who carry us within them long after we've forgotten we ever existed there. Have you ever wondered where you go when someone stops looking at you the way they used to? When the eyes that once searched for you in crowded rooms now pass right through you, as if you were made of morning mist? We spend so much of our lives believing that our existence depends on being seen, on being recognized, on mattering in the immediate and tangible ways. But perhaps the most profound truth about human connection is this: we continue to live, breathe, and shape the world through people who may no longer even speak our names. I've been thinking about this lately, in those quiet moments when the house settles and the day's noise fades into memory. How we persist in ways we never intended, in ways we'll never know. How love, once planted, grows wild in gardens we'll never visit again. How the smallest gestures, the briefest encounters, the words we threw away like loose change, become treasures someone else has been hoarding for decades. You see, we've been conditioned to measure our impact by what we can see, by what returns to us like echoes in a canyon. We want proof. We want acknowledgement. We want our names written in someone else's story in bold, unmistakable letters. But life, in its quiet wisdom, operates differently. Life plants us in soil we'll never touch again and lets us bloom in seasons we'll never witness. Think about the teacher whose name you can't quite remember, but whose voice still guides you when you're making difficult decisions. Think about the stranger who smiled at you on a day when you felt invisible, not knowing that single moment of recognition carried you through a week of darkness. Think about the friend from childhood who moved away, who you haven't spoken to in 20 years, but who still defends you in conversations you'll never hear, because something about who you were at 8 years old impressed itself so deeply into their heart that it became part of their moral compass. We live on in the standards people hold because of us. We live on in the kindness they learned from watching us be kind. We live on in the courage they found because we showed them what bravery looked like on an ordinary Tuesday. We live on in their children, who will never know our names but who will benefit from the patience their parents learned by loving us, even when we were difficult to love. This is not about the grand gestures or the dramatic moments that feel like movie scenes. This is about the accumulation of small humanity. The way you listened when someone needed to be heard. The way you showed up when showing up was inconvenient. The way you chose gentleness when the world was pushing for hardness. These moments, which felt like nothing special at the time, become someone else's foundation for how to be human. I remember my grandmother's hands, always busy, always creating something from nothing. She would mend clothes that weren't worth mending, cook meals for people who weren't expecting them, tend to plants that would outlive her by decades. She died believing she hadn't done anything particularly important with her life. She was wrong. She lives in the way I fold fitted sheets, a skill I learned at 6 and have passed down to my own children. She lives in the way I never throw away leftovers without first considering who might be hungry. She lives in the patience I've cultivated for things that grow slowly, because she taught me that the best things always do. But she'll never know this. She never saw me become the person her small acts of love helped shape. She never witnessed how her refusal to waste anything taught me to see value in what others discard. She never knew that her way of talking to plants like they were old friends would become my way of finding peace in solitude. She died thinking her influence was small, contained, forgettable. She had no idea she was still teaching people she'd never meet, through the person I became because of her. This is the invisible legacy we all carry. We are walking libraries of everyone who ever touched our lives, and we are simultaneously living in the libraries of people whose shelves we helped fill. The way you comfort someone in pain bears the fingerprints of everyone who ever comforted you. The way you celebrate small victories carries the joy of everyone who ever celebrated yours. The way you hold space for someone else's grief is informed by everyone who ever held space for your own. And yet, we worry about being forgotten. We worry about maturing. We create monuments and write our names on things and desperately try to secure our place in a story that feels like it's constantly erasing us. What we fail to realize is that the most enduring monuments we build are made of influence, not stone. They are built from the way we change the trajectory of a stranger's day, the way we model what it means to recover from failure, the way we demonstrate that it's possible to remain soft in a world that often rewards hardness. There's a beautiful paradox in this. The more we try to control our legacy, the less likely we are to create one that matters. The more we focus on being remembered, the less likely we are to do the forgettable things that actually change people's lives. The most powerful influence we have is often unconscious, unintended, unwitnessed. It's the way we treat the waitress when we're having a bad day. It's the way we respond when someone makes a mistake. It's the way we talk about people who aren't in the room. I think about the people who shaped me and how few of them knew they were doing it. The neighbor who always waved from her garden, teaching me that acknowledgement is a form of care. The cashier who remembered my name and asked about my day, showing me that small talk can be a kind of ministry. The stranger who helped me carry groceries when I was pregnant and struggling, demonstrating that we are all responsible for each other's burdens, even when no one is watching. None of these people set out to teach me anything. They were just living their lives with a particular quality of attention, a particular standard of kindness, a particular commitment to treating each encounter as if it mattered. And because they did, it did. Because they cared, I learned to care. Because they saw me, I learned to see others. Because they chose connection over convenience, I learned that love is not just a feeling but a practice. Now I wonder, who am I living in? Whose decisions am I quietly influencing? Whose capacity for patience did I help expand? Whose definition of strength did I help reshape? Whose understanding of what it means to age gracefully am I somehow informing, just by the way I move through my own growing older? We may never know the answers to these questions, and perhaps that's as it should be. Perhaps the most generous thing about influence is that it doesn't require our awareness or our permission to work. Perhaps the kindest thing about love is that it continues to give long after we've stopped trying to give it. The person you were to someone 20 years ago is still alive in the way they approach certain situations. The encouragement you offered during someone's darkest hour is still echoing in the encouragement they offer others. The way you handled disappointment with grace is still teaching people you've forgotten how to lose without losing themselves. The joy you expressed over simple pleasures is still giving others permission to find happiness in small things. You are living in someone who no longer sees you, and that is not a tragedy, it's a testament. It's proof that love, once given, develops its own life force. It's evidence that we are more connected than our individual stories would suggest. It's confirmation that influence is not about being remembered by name, but about being remembered by impact. There's something profoundly liberating about understanding this. It means that even when we feel forgotten, we are still contributing to the world's store of goodness. It means that even when we feel like our best years are behind us, we are still actively shaping someone's future through the seeds we've already planted. It means that loneliness is not the same as being ineffective, and invisibility is not the same as being insignificant. The love you gave away carelessly in your 20s is still nourishing someone in their 70s. The patience you learned through your own struggles is still helping someone else navigate theirs. The wisdom you gained from your mistakes is still preventing someone else from making similar ones. You are more essential to the fabric of existence than you realize, not because of what you're doing now, but because of what you've already done. This is why it hurts so much when people leave our lives, and why it's so difficult to let go of relationships that have run their course. On some level, we understand that when someone stops seeing us, they take with them a version of ourselves that only existed in their eyes. But what we often miss is that while they carry away one version of us, they also carry forward another version, the version that influenced who they became, that lives on in their choices, their values, their way of loving others. So when you find yourself wondering if you matter, when you question whether your life has had any real impact, when you feel like you're disappearing from the world's consciousness, remember this: you are still alive in people who have stopped looking for you. You are still teaching lessons you thought no one was learning. You are still providing comfort to people who have forgotten where they first learned that comfort was possible. Your influence is not diminishing as you age, it's deepening. Every year you live, you add new layers to the foundation you've already built in other people's lives. Every experience you integrate, every lesson you learn, every moment of grace you exhibit becomes part of the invisible curriculum you're constantly teaching just by being who you are. The teenagers who seem indifferent to your wisdom are absorbing more than they realize. The adult children who think they've outgrown your guidance are still using your voice as their internal compass. The friends who have grown distant are still carrying your influence forward in ways that would surprise you. The strangers you've encountered briefly are still benefiting from the kindness you showed them in passing. This is the secret immortality we all possess. We live on not in monuments or memories, but in the ongoing choices of people we've touched. We achieve permanence not through fame or recognition, but through the quiet multiplication of love, one influenced life at a time. And perhaps this is enough. Perhaps this is everything. Perhaps the greatest gift we can give ourselves as we navigate the later chapters of our lives is the understanding that our story is still being written, not in our own experiences, but in the experiences of everyone we've ever helped write theirs. You still live in someone who no longer sees you, and in that invisible existence, you are more alive than you've ever been. If this reflection stirred something in you, if you recognized yourself in these words or found comfort in this invisible legacy we all share, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Sometimes the most profound conversations begin with the simple acknowledgement that we are all living in each other, whether we realize it or not.